don't have a job to find. And if I were tonight, if I'm so tired tonight, I'll fall asleep when I'm home. When I'm home.
Greetings everyone, it's the Average Movie Viewer. We are continuing our Marvel Ranked video. Infinity War is not going to be in this list to begin with. I'll do my own separate video discussing Infinity War, and then I'll be placing it in its correct position. But we're up to Phase 2, so that means it's the middle of the pack, so these are just your good Marvel movies. These are just good. Some flaws, but they are good. So that's why I'm going to be sticking these in the middle of the pack. And yeah, let's just get this started. Alright, so our number 12 spot is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, it was really hard to rank these middle ones because they're all pretty much as good as each other. But I felt that Guardians 2 gets put this low is because it feels more of what the original was, which is okay, no fault by any means, but it just felt more of the same. I mean, the villains, in my opinion, were a little bit more... Well, one of them was a little better than Ronan, but that doesn't count, like, help it when its secondary villains, the Sovereign, were so boring. I mean, it's really hard to describe exactly how boring they were. There was no character to them, there was no depth behind them, they sounded like robots. There's not really much I can say about them. But Ego was a pretty decent villain. He was more or less just a plot device for Peter Quill, but I don't mind that. The chemistry worked, but you know. And one thing I have to bring up, that Drax in the first one, he felt like he's like a full solid character. Now it kind of feels like they've just put him into the pushed him back to just become the comic relief character, which, granted, he is funny. I mean, he makes me laugh no matter what scene he does, but something about it, from his character from the first one to the second one, just changed, and I feel it wasn't for the better. Number 11 spot goes to AntMan. This was a much welcome change of pace to the world being destroyed. I mean, pretty much every superhero at the end comes down to the world being destroyed. But this was more of a self-contained heist story. And it works. I mean, Marvel knows what they're doing. And casting, you know, Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, that was a brilliant idea. His charisma drags you into this unknown character. The idea of Ant-Man, it just sounds so silly, but Marvel knows what they're doing. They have pulled it off. And to make you feel for a CGI ant, to make you feel, that's just insane. I understand, you know, they made us feel with a talking tree and a talking raccoon, but at least they're animals. They're actual animals that have distinct personalities. This is an ant. It's an ant, and you feel for it. I don't know. I think that's one reason why I actually put this up like pretty high on my list, is because, you know, it's a self-contained story, gets right to the point, yet they did fall flat on the villain again. Which Marvel has stated, they're not in it for the villains, they're in it for the heroes. But Yellow Jacket was just a carbon copy of Ant-Man. That's all he really was. Next up is Captain America: The First Avenger. Now, I read the comics growing up, and I was never the biggest fan of Captain America. Granted, he was just basically a super soldier. That's really all he was. I didn't really feel any connection to him until we got this movie. Chris Evans as Captain America is perfect casting. He's got this gravitas about him. That's the word I'm going to use. He's got this gravitas that makes you want to follow him to the end. I don't know what it is, but they chose the perfect person for it. And I think one of the main things I got to bring up though is the special effects for this movie. I didn't know how they were going to tell the origin story of Captain America. I didn't know if they were just going to start with him as a super soldier or they show the beforehand. But they decided to show the beforehand, and damn what they... I can't believe they made us believe that Chris Evans was this scrawny little kid. I cannot believe it. The effects were done so well, and it's a shock to me because the director of this was the director of Jurassic Park 3, and as much as I love that franchise as well, that movie wasn't that good, so there was a little speculation going into it, but they pulled off a pretty decent villain with the Red Skull. Hugo Weaving was... He sold that role. He sold it, and yeah, it's really just it is just your basic generic origin story for all your superheroes, but the actor... Chris Evans, he draws you in. He draws you into this world. This next one on my list, I feel a lot of you would have ranked higher, so there might be some disagreements with this one, but this is my opinion. But I put Thor Ragnarok down here in this next spot. I love this movie. Don't get me wrong, this movie is brilliant. But to me, the comedy was too much. But putting that aside, the comedy did work for Thor. It's what Thor needed. The first two Thor movies, the first one was pretty good for his origin, and the second one is by far one of the worst of the Marvel movies. It just has they had this like dour tone to them, and Thor is this godly being, and he shines with radiance. So you needed to put him in the right movie for the Thor character to work, and they finally did. We finally actually got what Thor actually is in the comics. This bright, charismatic bloke, and you know, Chris Hemsworth has been pulling that off since the Avengers, but it's really here where he gets to showcase all of what he can do with his comedy, his action chops, everything. He shows off everything in this role. And to bring in Bruce Banner to have our own Planet Hulk storyline, we were never getting a solo Hulk movie, but, you know, I'm so happy that we actually got to have a little bit of story with the Hulk. Get a little bit more depth on him. And, I don't know, the villain, to me, is just okay. You know, a lot better than Ronan, Malekith, all these other, like, just generic villains. But they could have done more with the character. They really could have. But I can't really fault it for that. You know, Marvel. You know what they're like. They don't focus on the villains. So, but I put this here just because I feel it's a great movie, but I feel it just has to go down here because there are a few others that I'd like more than this one. Alright, our number 8 spot goes to SpiderMan Homecoming. This is the Spider-Man that we've always wanted to see on screen. I mean, I grew up with Tobey Maguire. He has always been my Spider-Man, but he played the part of Peter Parker to a T, but his Spider-Man was a little lacking. Then when we moved to the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, we got Andrew Garfield, who to me was too much of a pretty boy. He didn't seem like a Peter Parker, but he was like the perfect Spider-Man. He knew exactly how to play the Spider-Man character. Tom Holland is the best of both worlds. He can play Peter and Spidey. There is no question that he is the best Spider-Man that we've ever had on screen. And the movie itself, after all these big movies like Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, we get another condensed storyline. You know, just Peter saving his home, just saving his hometown basically. And we got introduced to probably one of the better villains in the MCU as Vulture. Michael Keaton is a really good actor, and he knows how to capture a scene. Especially with him and Tom Holland together, they worked really well off each other. And I gotta say, the condensed story makes Spider-Man feel more grounded. So, the movie just made sense. It made sense for Sony to finally cave in, make the deal with Marvel, to finally give us a good Spider-Man movie, and they don't bore us with his origins anymore. We've already seen Ben die multiple times. We didn't need to see it again. We got the reference, and that's it. Perfect way to start Spider-Man. And our number 7 is going to be Doctor Strange. Now, I honestly didn't expect much from this movie. I did not know how Marvel was going to go from these... what they had done beforehand, and then finally bringing in the Mystic Arts. We'd never seen the Mystic Arts in the MCU. And, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to translate to the screen, but somehow they got the pages of the comic and just splashed it right in front of the screen for us. It was an insane trip to see Doctor Strange. And Benedict Cumberbatch, I can't pronounce his last name, but Benedict is the perfect cast for Doctor Strange. He even looks like the Sorcerer Supreme from the comics. He's a dead set spitting image of him and plays him so well. It's like he was literally born to play this role. And I gotta say, the ending was a big difference. It might be like the world is gonna be destroyed again, but it was done so differently and so not by Marvel textbook that just drew me in. It drew me in on what this character was all about, and the learning about how magic actually contributes to the MCU. It's a really interesting fact, considering it had never been brought up before. Well, actually, the only time... well, we did actually get a name drop of Stephen Strange in Captain America the Civil War. Not Civil War, sorry. We got it in The Winter Soldier. And ever since then, people have been wondering when we were going to get Doctor Strange, and we finally did, and it works. Okay, well, Phase 2 is complete. We have finished ranking the middle of the bunch. Now, the hard part comes to where we rank the top 6 Marvel movies. That's going to be the next video. What can I say? I'm enjoying this, going back and rewatching these movies, picking out all the flaws that I missed when I was first growing up. It's been fun. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about the top Marvel movies. Because most of the top ones are some of my favourite movies of all time, and I can't wait. And after that too, we'll have the Infinity War discussion. That's gonna be a long video. It's gonna be no cuts or anything, so it's just gonna be me sitting down talking just about Infinity War with a notebook in front of me with all the notes I've written out for it. So, and then after that, I'll then place it in the same video. I'll place it into a ranking order. Please comment, please subscribe, helps out the channel, hit the thumbs up button, and as always, I am the Average Movie Viewer, and I'll see you next time.